I thank you all for joining us. If I can have us rise and call this meeting to order, first with roll call.
Mayor Bruin.
Here.
Mr. Blades.
Present.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Present.
Mr. Heyman.
Present.
Ms. Breeden.
Here.
5 present. We have a quorum.
Next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there any items for any changes to the agenda?
No, I think I'll bring it up in future agenda items, but I did think about adding or moving something around on the agenda. I don't know if now's the appropriate time, so over to you, Mayor, to discuss it.
I think we'll talk about it in future discussion items.
Future discussion? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But we'll
I'd
be
like-
happy to hear it.
Sure, okay, then I'd like to motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion second. Roll call.
Sorry, having an issue with Lloyd. I'm resending him a link.
Or we get to push our buttons.
Oh, yeah. Vote. Please vote. I forgot we got Peggy's picture in. Please vote. Wow. Yay. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Yay, we get to use our technology. Okay, could I ask everyone to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Travis, you're nominated. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Solomon, if you would mind leading us.
Sure, I'll be glad. Please join me in an attitude of prayer. Lord, thank you for giving us this beautiful day. Thank you for this great city of Ridgecrest which you have given to us. Lord, I pray for our country. Lord, let our leaders be led by you, by your wisdom. Lord, let there be love, let there be peace, let there be understanding between each of the citizens of this country, Lord. I pray for the troops who are in harm's way, protect them from all evil. I pray for our town, I pray for the Ridgecrest City Council as we discuss so many issues. Let our direction, let our decisions be beneficial to this community. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
We have 2 presentations this evening. The first presentation will be provided by Mr. Cox.
May I have Solomon Rajaratnam come down, please?
I didn't do it.
I didn't really hear it. Now I can. I wasn't sure if it was on. Solomon, we'd like to present to you this plaque. Solomon served faithfully in the Planning Commission and diligently for the 6 years that he was appointed. Most of that time he was a co-chair. And so we wanted to present him this plaque in appreciation from both the commission and staff in which he served.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Do I have any members of our transit department here in the audience today? I didn't see any, so I'm going to go ahead and our next presentation is a proclamation, which I will go ahead and present just from the dais since we have nobody here to share it with. We are recognizing and honoring National Transit Driver Appreciation Day. And I will go ahead and read the proclamation for today, the 17th day of March. Whereas transit operators manage to keep a schedule, check fares, give directions, announce and remember stops, and whereas they safely maneuver public transit vehicles through unpredictable traffic and adverse weather conditions, and whereas transit operators transport people to various places that include work sites, schools, and shopping and leisure activities, providing citizens from all walks of life with personal mobility and freedom. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of many people in this community greatly depends on their ability to rely upon the transportation services provided by our transit operators, and whereas the efficiency and effectiveness of these qualified and skilled professionals contribute to the quality of the life that residents and visitors alike enjoy and rely upon, and whereas transit operators don't have an easy job, they just make it look that way. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Ridgecrest City Council that we recognize and extend our appreciation to our dedicated and skilled transit operators, and hereby proclaim March 18th, 2021 as Transit Driver Appreciation Day. Thank you, all of our staff and our transit drivers, for their service. Okay, next item on the agenda would be public comment on items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on any item that does not appear on this agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and the public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. I will take public comment first from the floor and then from the calls. Do I have any public comment from the floor? Seeing none. Do I have any public comment from the phones? I have no public comment from the phones. I will go ahead and take that as no public comment and move on to council announcements. Does anyone have any council announcements?
Make me last.
Make Kyle last. We're going to go from, we'll go from right to left then. Peggy, anything?
No, thank you.
No. Announcements? Sure, that's fine.
I just want to bring it up to everybody's attention. There's a pack raffle that's going to be going on. There are tickets available for $20 each, or 6 tickets for $100. They have a lot of nice raffle items: a guitar, Mark Hoppus Blink 182, if you are familiar with that. A firearm, 65-inch TV, a smoker, gun safe that holds 24 guns, a small biometric gun safe, and 5 $100 gift cards from Max Restaurant. So you can see Barb for your ticket needs, and that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. I have 2 items, which is one, just wanted to pass on for anyone in our community that has had challenges or struggles with housing, rental assistance, and eviction, especially during the COVID period, that they have gotten the system up and the process for that, applying through it online. It's called housingiskey.ca.gov. If you are having any of those challenges, I encourage you to take advantage of the services that are available out there. Usually, I will be honest with you, having a conversation with probably any of our local landlords would probably go a long ways. But if they're not local and you're having a challenge, please make sure to take the resources that are available there. And then the second one is just a shout out to another auction, but rather the Rotarians, and who are doing their Scholars Auction. I actually stole that from you, and I shouldn't have, and I just realized it. And with that, I'm going to be quiet and let Solomon tell you all about it.
Go ahead.
I completely forgot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rotary has online auction going on, so they have very good items. So the website is www.octria.auction.scholarships. So if you go there, you can bid on that, and it's a fun activity. So I really enjoyed. I've been bidding on that. So I encourage everybody to do that. It is for providing scholarships to high school students. So that's a good. It has good value. So I encourage everybody to participate in that. Thank you.
Mr. Lace.
Yes, I just have one thing. I am arranging, and there will be a community cleanup day. Rather simplistic. We're going to get together in one certain area of the city. I spent some time driving around with our police chief, identifying areas of the city that we needed to pick up trash. And people should know that our city staff does everything they can to pick up trash when they can, when they can. But there's only so many hours in the day and only so many hours in a staff schedule. So I'm arranging a community cleanup. It'll be April 24th. It's on a Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning. So if there's anybody out there listening that would like to be a part of that, we're going to have a dumpster centrally located, and we're going to have trash bags supplied. And past that, it's just on and doing labor and walking up and down the road.
So where are you going to meet?
So we're going to meet at, good question, at Bowman and LaMille Street. So if you're on your GPS, you'll see LaMille. It's like halfway between County Line Road and Richmond Road. And you'll see my white pickup truck, and probably see the chief there too.
Good, that's it? Just you two?
No, I'm just kidding. But I know I'm going to be there, so I look forward to if you want to get out and you feel like doing it, please do. That's all I got.
With that, can I just ask a quick question of city manager? The city dump, it has a fee for dumping, correct? All I was saying is there something where we could do a day like that every quarter, every 6 months, where we waived our city portion of a fee just to encourage a community cleanup?
So I know Ron probably has an answer on his tongue, but I was going to say that I know that these trash bags, there's only certain items, like if it's commercial type items, that have to be charged. So I think that we should be okay. Now, unless there's items in there they want to charge us for, then I'll pay it.
I
I'll
wasn't
pay it
worried
myself.
about the cost. I was more encouraging, hey, that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Community-wide.
Community-wide, take this day as an opportunity to go and do some extra cleanup in your the area next to your house that you don't want to drive out to Bone, but if you pick up a big bag and you take it out to the dump, we're not gonna hit you that day.
I see what you're saying.
That type of thing.
Yeah, Mr. Blades, if we reach out to Waste Management, they can assist us with a roll-off that will bypass those land fee charges. Because every person on their taxes pays for their waste disposal, and you can't have some large item disposal through Waste Management. So if we coordinate through Waste Management in the county, we should be able to alleviate a lot of those fees.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. I was just waiting for a confirmation email. I asked the police chief to reach out for us, and we think we're going to coordinate a roll-off or at least a dumpster or something right there at that Lou Mill Street, so it's just centrally located. And to your point, I'd like to do, if this works out, and a lot of people seem to be on board with doing this, I'd like to do it, at least a couple times a year, because there's trouble areas that the city just can only do so much in a day. So it's up to us to take care of our community.
Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, he said it's already been approved. They're going to drop.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
In the past, and we've had community.
You gotta be right
talking
up
to
on
me?
it.
Yes,
Yep.
We can't hear you at all.
You gotta be right up on it.
In the past, when we've had community cleanups, there has been organizations that have challenged each other and given, I'm going to say, rewards to if like the Rotary Club brings out 100 people and the Lions Club brings out 100 people, and they challenge each other and pay rewards for that. I'm not saying those ones did it, but could we help in that, in the publicity of those organizations that challenge each other to try to get the most people out? Could we be involved in that in some way?
I'm gonna say, Kyle, do what you want to run, because here's what I'm gonna say. That is, if Kyle can pull off a fantastic, and we can restart the idea of a community involvement in terms of taking care of ourselves, then we can latch on to all the other fun ideas.
Okay,
Let's,
all right.
Let's hit the home run first, and before we start trying to run around the bases.
Okay, thank you.
That's Roger that. Mr. Cox?
I was going to say, make sure you reach out to the religious organizations as well, not just the civic organizations.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're coming for all of you to clean.
No exemption.
Yeah, I just wanted to pitch it up for people to volunteer, because I received a great amount of flack on social media, and well-deserved. That's fine. That's our job, right, is to sit up here and take flack, and for good reason. So it's something I want to just get together, and if you want to get out and help, I'd appreciate it. If not,
Great job.
That's okay.
We appreciate it. Okay, next is the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or questions are desired on any one item, it'll be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence, with an opportunity for any member of the public or council to address the item before action is taken. There are two items on the consent calendar. The first item is the approval of the draft minutes of the special meeting dated February 24th, 2021. And the second is the draft minutes of the regular meeting dated March 3rd, 2021. Do any members of the council wish to have an item pulled?
I hate to pull both. Sorry.
Both items have been pulled.
Just a couple of corrections, that's all.
That's fine. So next we'll begin with item number 3, which is the approval of the draft minutes of the special meeting dated February 24th. And that was pulled by Solomon. I will let you go ahead.
February 24th, the last line, motion carried by roll call vote of 4 ayes. That should be 3 ayes. There were only 4 on that day. Correct, Rika? Especially it's an appointment, so just want to make sure we have the right one.
Okay.
And on March 3rd, roll call, council present, Mayor Eric Bruin, he was present in person, not via phone, I think. Correct, Eric?
That is correct. I was present on
Okay.
3rd.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Those corrections, so we need a motion for the.
So I have, for the first item, we've addressed both, but for the first item, I need a motion for the approval of the draft minutes of the special meeting dated February 24th with the amended changes.
I motion to approve with amended changes.
I have motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
We
Please
will
vote.
have to do roll call vote since we're amending them.
Okay. With this amendment, roll call vote.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
This new order is hard. Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Next item is item number 4. This is the approval of the draft minutes of the regular meeting dated March 3rd, 2021, with the amended recommended changes by Councilman Raj. I'm gonna learn it one day. Rajaratnam. Did I get it right?
Got it.
I'm practicing.
I motion we approve with the amended changes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call vote.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, next item is item number 5. This is discussion and approval of resolution expressing support for actions to further strengthen local democracy, authority, and control as related to the local zoning and housing issues. I apologize. I did not ask if there was any public comment on the 2 revisions to the minutes. If there is any public comment on any of the revisions to the minutes, I will accept them in the record at any point later. I do apologize. I did not provide the public an opportunity for that.
Good catch.
As related to local zoning and housing issues, this was an item which I asked to be put on the agenda in the last meeting. This is coming from the California Cities for Local Control, and each of us as council members have received correspondence from this group, and I allowed it to marinate for a couple months, especially for the new council members to have a chance to read, get up to speed. There are really 2 ways to look at what I'm bringing forward. One is, am I bringing forward something that's specifically in contradiction to or in opposition to SB 9, or am I bringing forward something about the future direction of legislation? And it is option B that I'm really speaking about. It is not SB 9 specifically. The website talks more about SB 9, but SB 9 is the catalyst of how we got here. So we know that SB 9, over the last several meetings, we've been working on the accessory dwelling units and how those were going to be placed into our zoning, into our regulations, and into our processes. And that was a requirement that came down. We could have ignored the requirement of the SB 9, but we followed through with the goal or mission of SB 9 that the local authorities would make such zoning changes to accommodate this housing. My challenge is I don't believe that the state legislature should be telling us when we need to find changes to our local zoning authorities in order to meet our people's needs. I've spoken with the planning department, with the different departments, and specifically with Ms. Spurlock. We didn't have any demand for accessory dwelling units. So everything about the accessory dwelling units was pure bureaucracy. It was bureaucracy told on a bureaucratic level to this council. You are going to go do this because we told you to. Well, that's what I'm really talking about in this resolution, is joining 53 other communities across the state that say, guys, we, as the city of Ridgecrest, understand and have the capabilities to make our own zoning instructions or decisions in the best interests of our community and our citizens. And legislatively, we don't need you to continue your intrusion into local authority. That is what I'm seeking the support of the council for. That is what I'm seeking the support of the public for, is for us to join with numerous other communities. And if you've had a chance to see, I know that my fellow council members got the list, or if you've looked at the website, I believe it was 53 at the last count. This is about ensuring that there is one voice at the Sacramento level that is stating that the communities across the state are frustrated with the continued intrusion of state legislature in how we run our cities. With that, I will go ahead and open to public comment, and then I will take council comment, and then we'll go from there. So first, is there any public comment from the floor?
Just one moment, Scott. I think your mic's not on all the way.
Is now. Hello.
It's on there now.
Is now. Yep. Laura can talk like that. Is that better? Yep. I just went through and read SB 9. 2 questions I have, and Lloyd may stop me from asking this question. Is there an example of what that does? Can you give us a real-world example? Part 2 is if we do say, no, we don't want to deal with legislation, does that preclude us from any grants or anything in the future that Ridgecrest may be eligible for?
Right, on B, I don't believe so.
I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
On B, I don't believe so, because we're joining a coalition, not standing alone. The SB 9 example I gave is the accessory dwelling units. We just went through this entire process.
That's actually SB 1120.
That was 1120?
1120.
Okay.
So SB 9 is different, I think. SB 9 says that it approves a housing development containing 2 residential units in single-family residential zones, regardless of locally adopted and state-certified housing plans. Other example is it allows a developer to convert an existing single-family home into a duplex and then add an accessory dwelling unit and a junior accessory dwelling unit to the same parcel, resulting in a total of 4 units. So those are the 2 examples they have given.
There was about, I think I just read 19 pages on that particular unit, on that particular SB, I think it's SB 9.
SB 9.
But so it sounds like from what you just said, it's just about switching condominium or what do you call it, condos? Is that what I just heard you say?
Duplex can be
Duplex,
converted.
sorry.
Yeah.
So it just has to do with duplexes.
They might come up with anything. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it really has to do with who's in charge of local zoning.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, the reason I've brought it forward is who's in charge of local zoning? Is the city council in charge of local zoning and our planning department? Or is the state legislature in charge of telling us?
Yeah. I guess my biggest question is if we were to join this coalition, would that preclude us from any grants or anything moving forward from the state of California?
No, I don't think so, because I think all this is just us joining the coalition in an effort to keep the legislature from passing additional laws that restrict our zoning. Obviously, as a city, if they pass a law, we will obviously follow the law. But this is more of an effort to stop them from continuing to overreach.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Right. We're just a part of an advocacy group to oppose legislation. Doesn't necessarily mean we cannot stop legislation.
Is there any other public comment from the floor? Hearing none. Any public comment on the phones? Caller, state your name.
Yeah, hi, this is Dave Matthews. I want to commend you. This is more of what we need, this kind of action, because, and I was just watching the caller, or I mean the commenter there, and I'm not sure who it was. I'm sorry, didn't catch it. But this is what they do. They come in and tell you that you need to do something, and then they sometimes hold funds over your head, and that's the way they get their way, and that's not the kind of government that we need. So before I sign off, though, I would like to mention one other thing, and that is please watch your microphones, get to your microphones, because you're not doing it, and some of the comments are not coming through. And talk to the microphone. Don't talk to your fellow councilman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Do we have any other public comment on the phone? Hearing no other public comment, I have presented a resolution. I'm going to go ahead and take council comment. Start on this reading.
I only wanted to reemphasize what Scott had said, because one of my concerns was we are not bound by this. We are making recommendations. And I think it's important that we continue to do that. But my concern is, what if we try to do something that has been, I don't want to say prohibited by, but at least affected by what they may want to do for us? Can we go back to this resolution and say we were against it? We want to go back to our legislators and say, look at this. Can we use this as a, I'm going to use the word club. Maybe we don't ever want to, but I would like to be able to use this, the support of this, to go to our legislators and say, look at all of these cities, entities, whatever, went in and agreed together on something that you may wish to change, and we want to say no.
I think the club is accurate. It's just not our club. It's the League of California Cities
Yes.
club.
Yes, I got it.
And we're simply making sure that it's 1 inch longer.
Right.
No, it's not. It's not.
I mean,
legal.
I don't mean to have to explain that. I'm trying to say is if it's 53 inches right now in diameter, we're going to make it 54 inches in diameter.
I got you.
It's not League of California Cities Club.
It's
Cal Cities for.
It's California Cities for Local Control is the group we are joining. It is the council member, Mr. Griffiths, is working is part of a legislative advocacy from that division of the League of California Cities as well. So they are not working as the sponsor of the organization. It is council member Griffiths' effort, but it is supported.
So is it affiliated to League of California Cities?
No. It is not a direct
not.
agent of California.
It's an entirely different
It's
thing.
an entirely different, but it's somebody that can give the League of California Cities something to use.
And we are members
if I may,
of
Mr.
League
Mayor?
of California Cities.
I'm sorry. Yes, Lloyd.
Thank you. It seems like this resolution is a policy statement expressing support for something, but it doesn't seem to me that it's really joining an organization officially. You're joining other cities who are adopting resolutions like that to make a statement. Correct. But when the attachment that describes the mission statement of California Cities for Local Control, it describes enlisting cities to sign on to petitions, pass additional resolutions. Those will be further actions in the future. This resolution that's before you right now does not bind the city to add its name to everything that this organization does in the future. That's how I'm reading it.
As I understand it, that is correct. We are joining the coalition of cities only through resolution, not through membership or through other action.
Okay. So, but we are members of League of California Cities, right?
We are, the city is.
The
yes.
city is. So what if they go in a different direction and this coalition goes in a different direction? Are we conflicting their interest?
I think that there is a chance, again, I'm just spitballing, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, there's a chance we could, and I don't necessarily think that makes it a bad thing.
Okay.
There's been times, so having been our representative for League of California Cities, I have seen the league do good things for the California cities. I've also seen it, for lack of a better term, bend the knee and not stand up for things that I thought they should have stood up for. So I could see this. I don't see a downside to this yet. Like even like Scott was asking, is there a way we could lose funding? I don't see it because we're not opposing. Even if we say we don't like legislation, we're not really changing anything. We're just saying, hey, we're just going to add our voice to this megaphone, and hopefully somebody hears us. And if they don't, they don't. That's part of government, right?
And the voice in the resolution is that the city should be controlling the zoning.
Yeah.
We should be controlling the direction that zones our communities.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm in full support of that, so we should have control of that. And I'm sure our legislators are also with us, most probably. So, yeah. So I'm in favor of this.
Scott, did you have anything to add?
Just that I like the idea of it. I don't really understand the how formal of an organization it is at this time, but it's difficult to oppose legislation that's already been passed, and I'd like to see a more proactive look at getting legislation passed that pertains to this, a proactive type format that, instead of waiting and countering it, we see legislation going forward to that actually protects the
Proactive advocacy.
the city's zoning abilities. And so I think that's where the battle ought to be. But I do like what they're doing at this point. At least it's a good start.
Mr. Blades, anything else?
No, I don't have much to add. I'm a big supporter of this. Just for nothing else. And when I first got on council, I had a lot of conversations with our city manager about what was driving certain zoning in our area, and I told him my position as a city council member. And I thought that our position as city council members is that we not control, but we certainly guide how this city is built and how it's created, and we should always have a hand in that because who gives us their input is the citizens, right? So if people are telling us how they want this city built, but the state is blanket, not that the state is always ill-willed. I'm sure some of this stuff is very well-meaning, but they don't know our needs like we know our needs. So in this case, this is a good thing.
Yeah, a great example to Mr. Blades' point, and we can bring it up in the next point, but just looking at what the state is trying to dictate in terms of legislation for the water, in terms of usage in an evaporative cooler community, is just another example of Sacramento does not know what Ridgecrest needs. They may know sometimes, or the entire state, but I believe it's a good time to start saying it's enough.
I think it's a good start. So,
any other questions? Do I have a motion for my recommendation of approval of the resolution as presented?
I do. I would like to motion to approve this resolution and for expressing support.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is item number 6. This is discussion and provide guidance to the city's representative on the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority, Mr. Heyman.
Yes, the Groundwater Authority did meet last Wednesday. It was a rather light meeting. There was 3 primary agenda items, 7, 8, 9. Item 7 pertained to an address change for the Groundwater Authority. It is had been at the Water District. It's going to be changed to the City Hall address. And we're currently working out the details as to the agreement with the GA on the space and financial end of it. And that, so we should have that. Once that's finalized, we can bring it back before council. But so that was just an address change. The item number 8 was dealt with the project number 1, the percolation study. And basically that entails a study that's going to be looking at the wastewater effluent coming out from the new sewer plant. And so one of when it comes to the beneficial uses of the water, what's the best and beneficial uses to use that water for, we're looking at all the different avenues, and one being percolation. So this study is going to be focused on percolation and taking the existing data that's currently available and exploring other areas in the valley that may be of potential to put a percolation or study feasibility of whether or not percolation is the best option. So, and item 9 pertained to a variance pertained to a well that had 4 total users on it and pertained to the metering, and so that was passed. Let me go back to the first 2. Item 7 and 8 were passed, and item 9, the variance was also passed. So if anybody has any questions on those 3 items, go ahead.
No questions. Just a comment. I thought it was a rather informative meeting. I watched it as you guys went. I learned a few things, but it seems like you guys are just business as usual. I'm sorry. I guess I do have a question. So how is I know you guys introduced your new manager. How is that process going with getting them up to speed?
So far, so good. So we do have RGS is our new general water manager or GA manager, and so Carol is the new general manager, and so she's on board and attended her first meeting this past meeting. April Keewan is employed now through the RGS, and so she'll be performing administrative duties and working with the GA, and then we'll have a designated financial person from RGS too. But so far, it's looking very positive, and I think it's a very good change for the GA.
I guess now that we're talking, I have one more question. This one's a little bit more, so feel free to, if you don't have the answers to this, that's okay. The goal for a lot of the fees being collected is to buy an entitlement for water. Is there any status on us, not us, but the Groundwater Authority purchasing a water entitlement for the valley?
As far as, are we currently looking for water?
I know. Remember last year reported we were looking around. I just don't know if you've acquired any or how that process is going.
There hasn't been anything acquired, but there's been Capital Corps has been tasked with that job to find different sources of water that we could purchase. They have found various sources, so we're looking heavily into that to see if we may be able to purchase water. So, and as everybody knows, this is a drought year, and I read today where Northern California reservoirs are at half or less of their water storage, and that includes Oroville and several of the other large dams. And so purchasing water, I think, is a very important aspect of reaching and having a sustainable water future for this valley. Something to note, too, is when there's drought years, of course, water's harder to purchase because there's not enough of it, and the competition for it's really high. When you look at us being a severely overdrafted basin and compared to what's going on now with the availability of water, in less than 2 years, it was 2 years when we, mentioned this in the past, but now it's less than 2 years. There'll be 70, I want to say 73, so I might be off on that number, maybe 77 other overdrafted basins in California that are going to be coming onto their GSA or GSP plan deadlines, and then they are going to be jockeying for water too. So it's a good question. It's top of the list of priorities, and but as we find out more about that, and for anything that's firmed up, I'll definitely bring it back to everybody's attention.
Sure. Thank you.
So, is it up? No. Okay. So first, GSP has to be approved, right, before we start the process of buying water rights and all?
No, we can act on that currently.
Thank you.
But we're still awaiting on that final approval too on the GSP itself.
At the state level, the GSP is not. That's what we're talking about, right? The GSP has not been approved at the state level, correct?
Correct. We're still waiting on the final approval.
Yeah, I was, I listened into one of your groundwater authority meetings when Mick Gleason was still the chair, and I was surprised at how, and I'm not saying this for any political sake, it was a very serious conversation that the state could be very draconian about their implementation of a GSP if we don't get moving. And I remember one of the questions was, hey, can we even get moving without approved GSP? They said, yeah, move out, go get this done, get to work. If you do not, at least this is the way I interpret it, we will come in, we are going to fix your valley for you, and then you know what we're going to do? We hand it right back to AGA, whatever it is. I hope that the whole valley was watching that meeting, because after I got done watching, I was like, oof, it's pretty, I don't think that our path could be any more clear after this one. The state was not playing around.
Yeah, that was a meeting to remember. That was when we had the two different state agencies come on board and gave us the what-ifs and how they would come in and handle it for us. And I don't think we want that as a community. So I think the more we're proactive and take charge, and we're kind of leading, I think, the charge in California right now with what we're doing. We're probably one of the most proactive and let's just say well put together, GAs. And so anyway.
Yeah, more we keep the state out of our business, the better.
Thanks. I do know we have one public comment, so I'm going to go ahead. I believe we have a caller. Caller, state your name.
Hi, it's Dave Matthews again. First of all, I got a question, and then I've got some comments. Has the groundwater agency moved? Well, I know they have. They moved their date. And what is it?
It is the second Wednesday of the month now, Dave. Used to be the third Thursday, now it's the second Wednesday.
Okay, thank you very much, because that I don't know if that really got published anywhere, because I wasn't aware of it. But now to my comments. This groundwater authority is a prime example of what I was talking about earlier, about needing to push back to the state. I've been in this state for a number of years, and when this groundwater authority got started in the first place, I was pointing out that it's really the state's problem, because they have not done any major water projects for several decades. And part of the problem is their lack of doing what they should be doing. And anyway, that's one comment. The other comment is, you talked about the reservoirs only being about 50%. There again, I don't know why that is, because there's a lot of snow still sitting up there in the Sierras, and I don't know how much is there, because I'm not into that kind of stuff. But I do know it's been more than the last couple of years, just from looking at the maps that show those things. So the other thing is that one of the things that could be done, and this was brought up in some of the meetings for the formation of the agency, and that is, with federal help and maybe international help, as far as that is concerned, we could import water if they had the infrastructure. And there again, the agency and the federal government are lacking. Now, has anybody looked at their water bill lately? The last two water bills that I have paid, or yeah, I did pay the other one, are the highest bills I have paid for water since I have been in this house for 50 years, and I have not made any significant changes in my usage. Now, we used to have community gardens. You think the community gardens are going to be able to continue at this rate? I don't think so. And by the way, while I'm at it, we're talking about refurbishing or rebuilding the Penny Pool. Are we going to be able to fill it up? Somebody came around the other day and said they wanted a contribution to the Penny Pool project, and I was going to give them a glass of water, and then I took a second look, and I said, oh, well, I can't afford it. So,
Dave, you have at least 2 council members that are going, who's asking you for money for the pool?
yeah, tongue in cheek, come on.
Oh, I was genuinely concerned, Mr. Matthews.
Yeah. Okay, so that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Could I say something to Dave on this? Dave, my water bill for the GA last month was $1.91. Now, quite frankly, I don't think that's going to break too many people, but perhaps because I am concerned about what we all pay, others may pay more than $1.91 to the GA a month. But nonetheless, I don't think that our ability to affect this change that we need to do, because the GA is doing the exact thing that we are talking about here, is that we reacted to the state telling us, if you don't, we will. And we said, we're doing it because we are the ones who are most effective and know what can, just like the zoning, just what happens in this valley is best decided by us in this valley, not by the state. So thank you for the recognition of the validity of the GA by standing up to the state and saying, no way are you going to tell us what we're going to do. We're going to do it. Scott, I didn't mean to take away from you.
Okay, I'm going to let Kyle, and then we don't have any other callers coming in from the public comment. Any public comment from the floor? Not seeing any. Kyle, I'll let you go ahead and finish up with any other comments, and I know Scott has some things.
No, I have no other comments. This can tie in. So this was going to be a part of. We're providing discussion and our guidance on how we think, right? But in this case, they already met. So we can talk about this in the future agenda items if that's how we'd like to do it. But I'm going to at least ask for a discussion on us. Either we put this on every council meeting that we can discuss it because we're missing times, right? No. Either that's the option, or I'm going to ask for us to put it down into our committee section. So it's just, because it's almost like what it is. We already know that we've had it legally defined for us multiple times that we cannot give direction to Mr. Heyman. But we know that we can say, hey, we feel this is where we should go. And you're like, well, okay, I'll take into consideration. And you go to your meeting. So, but I would at least like to discuss it because we often met, like just now, they met last week. So what happened already happened. So what are we're not providing guidance or discussion.
That seems perfectly reasonable.
So it's bothered me since the very first day I got on this board because we never fully get to discuss everything as a council.
So at one point, we used to have it on every meeting, and then we took it down to once every other meeting. Every other meeting. So we can do it either way. We can put it down in committees, or we can do it every meeting.
So I guess we can either up to you, Mr. Mayor, to have that discussion. Where do you want to have that discussion at?
I personally think in committees makes a little more sense for me personally, only because what it does is it is just that, but it's a constant reminder of it. Now, if it's a discussion item, the difference being is that if it's in the agenda as a discussion item, then we're going to open public comment versus non-opening public comment during committee reports. So it really kind of defines down to the amount of public comment you want on giving direction to the council member in regards to water.
Guidance.
Okay.
Sorry.
Orders versus information. We all understand each other. What we're trying to say is one would involve public comment, one would not. I think that would be essentially the significant difference in the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. My thought process is that there would always be a time for public comment in the items not on the agenda.
Right.
So maybe that can always get brought up there. Again, I don't know if we need to have this discussion. If you want to have it now, we're already into it. Let's talk about it. If not, we can wait till future agenda items. And then, of course, Mr. Heyman, I'm sure you have an opinion on this, how this should be structured, but.
I actually think the discussion is perfectly appropriate, because right now is discussion and guidance to the city's representative on the GA. And you're saying one of my discussion issues is I'm not speaking about the issues before they're happening.
It is an issue for me right now. I mean, so I can tell you one thing. If I was the guy, I'm not, but if I was Mr. Heyman, I would want to come and talk to you guys before I went off and did stuff like that. And it's already happened. So now here he is. He's giving us a good report on what went on and how things went. And that's great. I love it. But that's just like it's a committee. So either it's on each agenda or.
Mr. Mayor, I can add something to this. In Mr. Heyman's, on Mr. Heyman's behalf, most of these items are developed by staff. And a lot of times, most of the board does not know a lot of these items are coming forward until the agenda packet is published, and then you have the meeting where staff presents the item, it's discussed, there's public comment. So to expect to be able to discuss all the items that are in front of the Groundwater Authority when the chairman probably does not have a full grasp of everything that's coming toward him until such time as the agenda is published. I think the benefit of having the discussion here is that even if it's happened after the fact, he still gets an idea of how the board, how the council feels. And some of these things are ongoing items where we can get a little bit of an impression of how the council feels about it. And you're probably going to know on some of the major items, they're building blocks. They build up over time. And so I think that having it here for discussion, having it open for the public, at least provides the citizens of Ridgecrest an opportunity, but to think that every item that's on there, even some of the items may not get to Mr. Heyman until that meeting or a few days before. And sometimes they don't even make a decision. Sometimes that stuff comes back to staff for further development. So it'd be kind of difficult just to move it to the committee. I think that where we have it at may be the most beneficial for council, because he does get an impression from the council on how you guys feel about things during these discussions.
Do you think that would be too strenuous on the staff to have it on each city council meeting agenda?
I don't know if it's necessary to be on every council agenda item, because there are times like right now it takes several weeks to build the agenda. Right now we're building an agenda. There's some things that are placeholders that may or may not go in front of the board because they have to be developed. Some get developed, some are pushed off another month.
Ms. Charlene, the agenda has to be posted 7 days in advance, correct?
72 hours in advance.
So even if we said the first Wednesday being our regular council meeting, there's an entire possibility that no agenda for that GA meeting has been posted.
Correct. What I would suggest, though, possibly is moving it from our second meeting to our first meeting, because there's a possibility that we could catch their agenda if they were to publish a little bit early, rather than being after the fact. So if you wanted to keep it once a month, we could move it to the first meeting of the month rather than the second.
That's what I was trying to figure out, if there was if there was more value in first, second.
And there probably will be now, because prior to this, their meetings were on a Thursday, and she didn't publish till Monday. Now their meetings are on Wednesday, so she could possibly publish on Thursday or Friday before she goes home for the weekend to meet the 72 hours. So we could catch an agenda occasionally.
Mr. Hammond?
So, yeah, I'd like to just add to that. And if we're discussing after the fact, or, then it doesn't matter if it's a week after the fact or 2 weeks after the fact. But we may be able to blend more of, discussing the past, how we moved on things. And if we do catch the agenda items for the upcoming meeting, discussing that. So that, I have no problem with, moving it to that date.
We can do that.
Maybe this, Kyle, maybe we put it onto the agenda for the next
3
months on every agenda, and then see what the necessity is and see how that's playing out in terms of providing the information.
Sure. I'm not trying to add work to the staff or to anybody else, but as you mentioned a word earlier, value, the value of our discussion. This is probably the most important thing going on in our entire valley right now, and the city has a big role in it. And we're handling it well. Our city staff, everybody's handling it very well. But the more we discuss it, the more we talk about topics, the better.
Yeah,
if it's meaningful.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste people's time.
And that's what I was saying is maybe we see if there's meaningful discussion that occurs by having it regularly, or if we feel like all of a sudden it goes, yeah, well, there's not a lot. I don't know.
Well, anyways, that's the only comment I have, so I'll go ahead and zip it.
So, yeah, either way, I think it's fine, because, I mean, if we don't have the information on the we cover past events on the one meeting, and then the following meeting, if there's not much to add, we say there's not much to add off, what we discussed last meeting, unless somebody has a topic that they want to bring up. So,
We don't have anything that looks like it's going to keep us here till midnight ahead of us right now. We're not arguing amongst us for the first time in 4 years. So I don't see any reason why not to entertain Mr. Blade's needs. And no, I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm saying it in a good way. Let's put on the agenda for the next couple months, see how it goes. And if it's something that needs to sit there permanently, then it stays there permanently. I agree with you. Water is a massive issue to this community, and there's no harm in having a quick discussion every meeting. No harm whatsoever.
There's not. The weight of this, so I've watched it, and I'm frustrated with it. Not in a bad way, some negative way against anybody, but like the weight of this entire thing seems to rest entirely on you, Scott. And that I don't think that we should share that weight as your counsel. And I don't know if we always do that. I don't know if it always feels like that in your seat.
It's okay. I mean, it comes with the job, I mean, and so I'm good with it. I mean, I don't find it, terrible.
Sure, but you went from an appointment to.
That's okay, but okay. So I'd like to go ahead. Are we good there?
Yeah, we're
okay.
good there. And I think you had a couple other points.
Yeah, I do. So, and as far as ongoing topics, city manager hit on a good point there. So and this will kind of maybe answer some of the costs of water in a roundabout way. But I'll update everybody on our, wastewater, on the recycled water project and what was offered. As we all know, we had met, myself and city manager and our Kern County supervisor had previously met with Sorrells Minerals. And so we had discussed and offered, a plan with the recycled water. A certain, portion of water initially was, divided 50-50 like we, had all discussed, but with half, they could have half of the recycled water, and prior water rights, in with that. We have not heard back from them. That would, lower their, in doing so, in signing up for the recycled water, plan, they would be not held to the replenishment fee, and so I want everybody to understand that, and so that would lower their costs substantially, and so instead of the fear tactics that that came out shortly after that, that Sorrells is losing jobs, I just want to make it real clear that we offered a plan to them that included being part of this recycled water project, and lowering their fees, lowering the being exempt from the replenishment fee, and keeping their costs down. Same with the water district. They were offered a part in this recycled water plan, and so they would not have to pay the replenishment fee, and so that would lower the fees to the constituents in this town. And so, but to this date, we haven't heard back from either one of those parties to firm up any type of an agreement or taking part in this. So, but anyway, so I'll keep you abreast of that. Other than those two items, I don't really have too much more to add tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest approving the 2020 annual progress report of the general plan and the progress report on the housing element and regional housing needs allocation plan. Mrs. Spurlock.
Got it.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So tonight I have the general plan and housing element progress report for you. So what this is the California Government Code requires that cities and counties provide an annual report to the legislative body and the Office of Planning and Research and the Department of Housing and Community Development. on the actions that were taken during the year for the housing element and the general plan. So the general plan is at 2030. It was adopted in December of 2009. The housing element is separate, and that was done in May of 2015, and it covers a period of 2015 to 2023. Our general plan includes these elements: the land use, military sustainability, community design, circulation, open space and conservation, health and safety, and housing. During the year, we have done 3 actions amending the zoning ordinance. The first is the home occupancy. That amendment was for the cottage kitchens and allowed the cosmetology as home occupations. We did the temporary employee housing, and that permitted the temporary employee housing in support of the base reconstruction and the accessory dwelling units. Actions that were taken by City Council or Planning Commission in support of the general plan are summarized here. So for the housing element, actions that were taken in support of that is the affordable housing development with the site plan and the density bonuses, the accessory dwelling ordinance, abatements by code enforcement, the finalization of 2 track maps, and Planning Commission extended 11 track maps. For the circulation element, the City Council took several actions related to street improvements and public transportation. For the military sustainability element, the city accepted administration of the Military Installations Resiliency Grant, supported the modification of jurisdictional status, and also the adoption of the temporary employee housing. For the open space and conservation, the Planning Commission took actions to approve the community garden and the Ridgecrest Restoration Ministries, and the City Council approved the Freedom Park bathrooms. For the land use element, the Chamber of Commerce electronic sign and the recordation of the final maps for the Oasis project, and Town Place Suites got an approval through Planning Commission. Health and safety, the council took actions on grants for electronic vans or vehicles and the transit van, and also included in the health and safety would be the drainage benefit assessment districts. For the housing element, this applies specifically to building permits. So behind you is the picture of one of our new neighborhoods. So there were 84 certificates of occupancies open for residential units, so mostly single family, but a couple multifamily units as well. In addition to that, 41 new building permits were issued, and of those, 57 of the projects were infill. The housing applications, these are the track maps. So there was a total of 11, and the number of units that were in those 11 maps is 1,117. This year is the second year that I've presented this report. So this year I added a little bit different for some of the goals and objectives that we might try to work towards accomplishing this year. Some of those is the zoning ordinance in our housing element. It includes some goals when that was adopted in 2015 for updates to our zoning ordinance that have yet to be done. So we will be looking at some of those and seeing how they apply now. Also, some of the zoning in our zoning map could possibly be considered for changes. There's just some zoning that may not make sense. But those are all just future actions that we will possibly take to Planning Commission. Also, in the general plan, the map for the Navy needs to be updated, so we will be trying to bring that as well. And then when I took this to Planning Commission last month, they also were able to add some goals that they would like to see, and one of those was doing a quarterly review of a different element to kind of give them an idea of what's in it or what could possibly change or need updating. So staff recommends the approval of this resolution, and then there's 2 different reports in there. There's the general plan, annual progress report, and the housing element. And This resolution would also authorize the staff to file the reports with the California Office of Planning and Research and the California Department of Housing and Community Development.
Thank you, madam. Okay, any questions from council?
I think it's a good presentation. You covered all the things. I was involved in most of the things, so I can go back and recollect all those things. So, yeah, you did a good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So those were calendar year 2020?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I was just trying to think. I don't remember. I'm sure you presented it in 2019, and I can't remember if there was an increase in building permits or. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot there because it's not like you came with graphs analytics. But do you remember, Solomon? No.
I'm going to suspect there was, simply because
Has
I would bet there was a 60-day period where there wasn't a lot of permits filed between beginning of July and the end of August.
Right.
In the previous year.
Right. Yeah, I want to tack on to what Solomon was just saying. Thanks for all the hard work. I know you guys are working hard. I've mentioned a couple times about the general plan just up here on the council, and I know you guys are working it. And you're always doing a lot of things that the city, the citizens don't get to see because you're in the nuts and the bolts and the making of the sausage. And thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
A lot of good things, obviously, moving forward. And, I mean, when you drive down Child Lake Boulevard and you see a brand-new 4-story hotel being built, you know there's positive things happening. Are there any comments from, any other comments from council?
I've not missed any planning commission meetings, and I was very, very surprised that there was a 1,117 all applications received for the new units, and it didn't seem like there was that many. And when I looked at the total, I thought, wow, our planning commission is doing a great job receiving a lot of information and generating a lot of additional opportunities in this community. And so I think when I hear criticisms of things that are done, I think we need to also balance it with what a great job. I'm very proud of our planning commission and our staff that makes this all happen. So thank you.
And I believe those are the maps for future development. It's not the actual
Right.
physical
Yes.
units yet.
Yeah.
Yet. Do you have anything, Mr. Haynes?
Yes. Under the elements of the Ridgecrest general plan for 2030, does communications, and I guess that would fall under like IT, digital, computer stuff, or phone and emergency broadcast, does those areas fall under general plan?
I'm sure they're in our general plan. I just don't. And we might not specifically address it, but if that's something that the council wants to see us look at, a lot of times some of those digital elements are not in our plans.
And
I'm sorry, I apologize for laughing, but literally while he's asking about communication, Heather's responding. Mr. Blades and I are both instantly looking at each other, which is we are absolutely working towards what we would like to see in terms of communication changes for the city. And while everything's still kind of behind the wizard's curtain, there's stuff absolutely being discussed and worked on to expand communication, and that plays into emergency broadcasting.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. And under
is how can we get that message out as rapidly as possible?
That would fall under that specific one. Kind of correlates back over to the health and safety, provision for the general plan.
Right.
And then my other question was, these were adopted December 2nd, 2009, these different areas of the general plan. And are they going to be updated? How often are they updated?
So the general plan is good through 2030. We can do updates annually. We have so many that we can submit every year. So that's kind of what the Planning Commission is looking at is, if there are areas of concern, kind of like we've been looking at the municipal code. So if there's sections that, possibly don't work anymore or we want to add more to it, that would be the process. So we plan to tackle one chapter or one section and then talk about it, make those changes, and then we can submit those.
And so data gleaned from the resiliency study that's going to be done could be utilized to update some of these different areas too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
How long does it normally take the general plan from start to finish? And I'm curious because we're 2021, 2030, and is it something that's a 5-year process, 2-year process?
Well, it predates me, but I believe it's at least a year. And the housing element is due to be updated because that's only good to 2023. So we do plan to take that out and start bidding and working towards moving forward on the housing element update.
Mrs. Spurlock, when I was on the Planning Commission, I believe that it was expressed to me that it was costly to update the general plan. And so sometimes you tried to not just do it incrementally, but you were doing it. Maybe things have changed, or maybe I didn't have I didn't hear the whole story. But you guys were you try to pack a lot of changes in all at once, and then pack a lot of changes in all at once. Is that still the true statement, or is that not true? Or can you make small changes as you go, and then it's not that big of a hit? I'm just trying to understand financially what the best way is to change this. We understand we have updates to do, but.
So what we would do, and that's why we would take it element by element, because if we have, say, 10 changes to the circulation element and we submit them all at once, that's one change. So that provides us the opportunity to make multiple changes in one area at a time, because during the year you can only make, I think it's 4, it might be 5.
It's actually 4.
4. So, and we would want to save possibly one in case we had development that needed a zone change or something and we needed. So if we did 3 chapters and made multiple changes to the individual chapters and submitted it one chapter at a time, then that would be one change.
Understood.
Just to add on to that, one of the main motivations at looking at the general plan over the next several years is there are things in there that do not make sense now, that we'd like to change now instead of 9 years from now. So yes, it is expensive to update your general plan in all one fair swoop, but we're hoping to make small incremental changes that actually will help our development now than to wait 9 years. And then it shouldn't be as expensive 9 years from now because we should have gone most of the way through it.
And there's some pretty substantial changes still coming when we think about just even purple pipe, solar, just where we're going in the future in terms of broadband. There's just a lot that could change over the next several years. Purple pipe and broadband being at least 2 of those. Okay. Any other questions? Any public comment from the floor? Hearing none. Any public comment from the phones? Hearing none. Do I have a motion for the approval of the resolution as presented by staff?
So moved.
A motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, you get to be up again. Next item on the agenda is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest, California, declaring certain parcels of real property surplus land pursuant to the State Surplus Land Act.
So this item is surplusing land. So the Government Code Section 54221 requires that cities take some very specific action regarding declaring property as surplus before we can dispose of it. That process is the city gives notice of land availability to the local public entities and the housing sponsors. Those housing sponsors are people that have, or companies that have notified the Department of Housing and Community Development of their interest in surplus property. Entities that are interested in purchasing the property have 60 days to notify the city of their interest. The city then is required to negotiate in good faith for not less than 90 days. The city is not required to sell or lease the property to the entities, or if they do, they're not required to do it for less than fair market value. So staff has kept a property book for several years. And during that time, we had noticed that we had several properties that potentially we didn't have a use for. So tonight, this is just declaring those properties as not of use. This is not selling them at this point. These would come back to council before we would proceed with selling them. But this is the first step in taking action to dispose of the property. So there are 4 properties. The first one is 1521 North China Lake Boulevard. This property is zoned commercial service. The property, you might all be familiar with it. It's warehouses. The reason for disposing of it is there isn't a municipal use. And continued ownership of the property uses public resources for maintenance and security. The next property is 401 Moyer. This property is in a residential mobile home district. Again, this property does not have a municipal use. It's underutilized, and we wouldn't have a public use for it. This property is 1217 West Boston. This is single-family residential. The property, there isn't a municipal use for the property. The location and the size, it's not suitable for parks or anything else. And the last property is 1400 West Boston. This one is residential mobile home. It's also vacant property. Again, the size and the location don't make it suitable for public use. So the resolution tonight would be just declaring that these properties are surplus and allowing staff to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, she already missed it. Yeah. It's already been, the resolution's already been passed and pushed forward, so I'll be happy to speak to Laura later. Sorry. Thank you, Heather. My apologies for the interruption there. Any council discussion? This is the great end to the, or the nearly end to the Matrix Motors, correct?
Exactly.
Let's call it what it is. It's now surplus, and please take it off our hands.
Yes.
Okay. Let's call a spade a spade. Any council comments?
I think it's a great project. So it will create revenues for the city, right?
It's surplus land. It's land not being used. That's commercial property that Matrix is never coming back. It is what it is. It was old. It's done. God bless. Hopefully somebody can use 1.4 acres on China Lake Boulevard. It's a beautiful day in Ridgecrest. Come on down. We'll sell it to you.
Yeah.
Yes, any sale of this property would be, any proceeds would go to the general fund reserves.
So, okay. Do I have a resolution do I have a motion for approval of the resolution?
Before you
sorry, I apologize.
Just one correction in the resolution. Pardon me for my eagle eyes. So
That's why we want you around.
I was going to say, nobody catches this stuff like Solomon. You're sharp.
He's good.
Everyone has a purpose, Solomon. Yours is perfect.
go to the fourth whereas. You have square brackets there. Is it intentional or is it a mistake?
I'm on the fourth whereas, and I don't see
It
brackets.
says city may take.
Under
it
the
looks like a
government,
check mark.
city may take, and then you have square brackets there.
That could be removed, yeah.
2, 3.
You see that?
Yeah, I see it on mine.
Third whereas.
Is it third? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I haven't flipped the page. All right.
Sorry.
That's all right. Let me get the right one so I can make the correction. Third whereas. Gotcha.
Fourth.
Fourth whereas.
Fourth whereas.
Okay.
Who's on first? Okay.
Good catch, Solomon.
Thank you, Solomon.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
If there's anybody out there looking for an adjunct English professor,
It's this guy.
it's this guy. Okay. Any other comments? Do I have a motion for approval of the resolution as presented with the addendum as requested?
I would like the motion to approve.
I don't believe there was any. I looked for any public comment.
No? Okay.
I would like the motion to approve with the recommended changes, the removal of
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks to the change, we have to have a roll call vote.
No, sir, we can go ahead and do
Oh,
that.
you're as bad as the state changing the rules on me.
There was 2 last time, that's why I only had 1 slide prepared.
Understood.
So, please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. And you get the next one too, don't you?
Yep.
Next item is item number 9. This is the introduction and first reading of an ordinance restating and renumbering portions of Chapter 106 zoning of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding, wait for it, accessory dwelling units and temporary employee housing. Ms. Spurlock?
Okay. So when accessory dwelling units was adopted, the municipal code section was a duplicate of the temporary employee housing code section. So they were both numbered 106-37. So what this does is corrects the numbering. That is the only change. There is no change to either one of these ordinances. So the change would make employee housing 106-38, and it would make accessory dwelling units 106-37.
Thank you. We have a staff recommendation, and I'm requesting a motion to waive the reading in full an ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, restating and renumbering portions of Chapter 106 zoning of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units and temporary employee housing. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second.
We have to do a roll call. Gary's waving at me.
Okay.
Mayor
Roll call.
Bruin.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
And then I have a recommendation motion to adopt by title only an ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, restating and renumbering portions of Chapter 106 zoning of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units and temporary employee housing.
No,
Yeah.
that has changed. Request center changed one.
What did I do?
I don't know, it's all in the card.
It's all we got.
It's all in the card, I believe it.
To waive the reading, the second one is to introduce by title only. Motion to adopt by title only, then there's a whole nother item.
Okay.
The first was to waive the reading, right?
Yes, he's on subdivisions. He's on the next
You're on the
staff
next
report.
staff report.
Oh, okay.
The first one is that we had to waive the reading.
Sorry.
Then I have a recommended action, and I'm requesting a motion to adopt by title only. An ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, restating and renumbering portions of Chapter 106 zoning of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units and temporary employee housing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Mayor Bruin. See, I knew I was going to do it eventually. It's so close. Mayor
Get out.
Bruin.
They're all both PR. It's okay.
Aye. Hold on, let me do it right. Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
You know what the best thing is? Laughter indicates that people are enjoying what they're doing. It's a good sign, people.
At my expense.
It is a good sign. Next item on the agenda is item number 10. This is the introduction and first reading of an ordinance of the Ridgecrest City Council of the City of Ridgecrest, California, amending the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding subdivision maintenance districts. You're up again.
Last one. So, as previously, a couple of years ago when RICA started the code recodification, engineering and planning got together and we kind of went through some of the sections of the zoning and the subdivision that were problematic or could possibly use changes. So this is one of the engineering changes that they are recommending. So this is for subdivision design requirements. It's section 105-33. It's specific to section H. So right now, this has the requirements for maintenance districts, for drainage, but it doesn't include, or no, it has, okay, so sorry. This includes several, it includes 3 different sections for the amendment. The first amendment, it adds drainage and flood control facilities as the areas that the maintenance districts is required to cover. So instead of just the lighting and landscaping, this would also include the drainage and flood controls. The second amendment allows for the city manager to waive maintenance districts requirements in specific instances. But it has to be based upon specific findings. So that could be that there isn't a need for additional flood control facilities or additional maintenance for lighting or drainage, and or that it's just impractical. We did have instances where the municipal code required that we have these maintenance districts, and they might not be applicable. So that's where this comes from. And the last amendment just clarifies some language that was in section 2, where it talked about islands, and it was kind of confusing on how the street was named. So it changes that wording to just clarify islands. And that's it. So staff recommends those changes. If you have any questions.
Can you go back one slide, please?
I was going to start with Solomon so you can make sure there's any spelling or revision changes before we get there.
No.
Okay. Kyle?
Can I go last?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Peggy? No. Scott? None.
I didn't have a question, though.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to give you plenty of opportunity. I was just having fun. Go ahead.
Okay. So is this going to be an additional financial charge we are trying to impose on developers, like for the drainage or flood control facility? So what I'm trying to see is this going to be a financial burden on them? Are we driving them away from developing in Ridgecrest?
Well, I believe that they would be added into the benefit assessment districts that are already part of the projects. But this would be specifically for flood control so that the city is not responsible for maintaining the flood control. And so instead it would be as the other maintenance districts where it's assessed on the different properties. And so the property owner pays for that. Because right now, if you have a sump or something and it's not in a maintenance district, then the city is responsible for that maintenance, as I understand it. But we do have our public works.
Do you want to comment?
May have additional comments.
Is this on? Hello?
Can I touch it? Yeah, right here.
There we go. No, I think it's on. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the overall idea behind this is we all have seen the Bowman Channel. It's there's a lot to maintain there, and what this does is this requires anybody that comes in and puts a development in which they require any kind of drainage mitigation, a sump, storm drains, things like that. So now there's an assessment that will help fund and help cause, help alleviate the need for city staff to go maintain all these improvements that would have not been necessary had the development not been there in the first place.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a question that kind of overlaps onto that, pertaining to islands. So if an island out in front on the street requires landscaping and maintenance, that's going to fall back on to the developer also?
I'm gonna say that that's going to depend on where the island is. If the island is in an arterial street, I would say that that would fall under the same category that the maintenance districts from the block walls that go, like for a track, for instance, you've got your perimeter block walls. The area in between the sidewalk and the perimeter block wall, if it's on an arterial or like a Drummond, a Downs, that is maintained by the city. But now if you have that on Tamarisk or on local streets, collector streets, that is in turn maintained by the landscape and lighting district that would be in there. So an island, which we only typically have islands on arterials and major thoroughfares, would in fact be maintained by the city regardless.
Okay. I could see that being a prohibitive thing for the builder, you know, if they're having to fund, you know, a maintenance, landscaping, you know, maintenance cost or you know, build out of it, and it's off property of what they are, you know, building on, and so if you say that's going to be a very limited thing, I mean, how do you, I guess I still have a little trouble on how do you,
So
that's a gray zone, I think, in the way you described it. I mean, sorry, but.
No, no. So basically, if you think about all the local streets in town and you think about where we have center medians, those center medians are in major thoroughfares. And the way that I have read and I understand that the landscape and lighting districts work, the landscape and lighting districts are basically for improvements that are put in by the developer within that development. And where they describe the ends and the boundaries of that development does not encompass the area from the tract boundary, which would be the block wall, the right-of-way in between major arterials and the street area. So that area would be maintained by the city.
Okay, thanks.
So, I mean, the key elements that I hear, first, we're removing minor streets by giving it a very clear definition. You know, if it's next to an arterial, then if this applies. I think the important thing to recognize here also is that we've given, you know, some good options for allowing the city manager to use some discretionary process in the level of funding that's required. And then finally is I think you hit the note. You gave a perfect example by talking about Bowman Road or the Bowman Flood Control Channel. You know, if somebody develops, and I know we have a development working for that area, if they are going to put a development in there and they are going to have an obligation to that flood control, then that flood control cost should be passed on to the development rather than taken on as a burden by the city. So I completely support this.
Or at least the city should be given the means to maintain it.
Absolutely.
That's.
Ron, did you have something you were?
No, I think they're doing a very good job answering the questions. I think that I think the main premise of this amendment is to allow some discretion from the city. You know, we had that one Mallory where we had one street light that didn't make sense. Well, staff did not have the ability to make any sort of judgment call on that. So although we're clarifying and adding, let's say, the drainage and the sumps to the requirement of a maintenance district, it also allows staff the ability to waive that if it makes sense. Now, if we have a development that comes in, puts 1,000 homes in, obviously that's a big enough development that's we're going to require, you know, a lot of these districts, so the city doesn't have to absorb that. But if you're just talking a small development, you know, 5, 6 houses or infill, this gives us the option of giving the developer some relief.
I think one other thing that would add to that too is currently, anytime you do any kind of subdivision work, or if you want to take one lot that's, say we've got a 2-acre parcel and somebody wants to split that into 1 acre, I know that there's not many of those in the city limits, but by filing a parcel map or doing something like that, the way the code read was they had to start a landscape and lighting district. And if somebody splits 2 parcels and there's no street, there's one street light there that's been maintained by the city for numerous years, it doesn't really make sense to have this requirement. So,
yeah, this also gives us the option that if we choose to allow the developer to use a solar LED light in the district, that gives us some flexibility in how we allow that to occur. So this is good for the developers, allowing us to have discretion in this area.
Thanks to both of you for clarifying that. That makes a lot more sense. So,
Okay, Kyle.
Yeah, so these are going to be added, as is listed here, these are going to be added to the existing districts as they exist now, right?
No, I believe these are
Just any
for all future development. We can't go after the fact and go back in time and require people to do this. This would be for new developments, new track maps moving forward.
Okay.
There's not a retroactive retroactive clause in this, and I think we could, because the developers that have already developed, we're not going to go back and require them to enter a drainage district.
Yeah, I was just defining it because I'm reading the language, and that's the impression I got. I didn't think that was what we could do. I thought I'd ask the question. Okay.
Yeah, once, during the entitlement process, we have the ability to put conditions on property. But once you have, an approved map, then we lose that ability to force conditions on the property, on the development.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. I have a recommendation for a motion to waive the reading in full an ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, of the City of Ridgecrest, amending portions to the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding subdivision maintenance districts.
motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion second.
Mayor Bruin.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Next items, I have a motion to introduce, a request for motion to introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, amending portions to the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding subdivision maintenance districts. I have
So
a
moved.
motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second. Roll call vote.
Mayor Bruin.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I may. Sorry for catching this late, but I see in the last item, item 9 on the agenda, the agenda is worded correctly. It was an introduction and first reading. All ordinances require a first and a second reading before they can be adopted. Somehow in the staff report for item 9, the motion, as I think it was read, said motion to adopt the ordinance. So the council...
Motion to introduce.
Yeah, exactly. It should have been a motion to introduce. So if I would say that vote is void because there's just no way to adopt an ordinance with just one reading. So if I could ask that the council have a new motion on that item 9. No need to do the 2 motions because the council properly voted to waive the full reading. But if we could do an introduction and first reading as the true motion for item 9. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Lloyd. Ricka, Solomon, come on. We're counting on you.
I guess.
But you are absolutely correct.
When I made this agenda, I must have been really off.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
City manager, we'll talk about that one later. Again, apologies, Lloyd, you are absolutely correct. I did call and state that the recommended motion was to adopt. It cannot be. I have a additional action, if I can ask for a motion to introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the Ridgecrest, California, restating and renumbering portions of Chapter 106 zoning of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units and temporary employee housing.
I would like to move on the appropriate motion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Second?
Second.
I have a motion and second. Can we pull off a roll call vote?
I'm going to try.
Okay. Mayor Breeden?
Mayor Bruin.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries. Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you, sir.
No reaction yet. There's a delay. There he goes. I know.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is committee reports. Finance Committee is up first. Which one do you want to take, finance or quality of life?
Quality of life, I don't care.
Great, I got finance, spectacular. Sorry, didn't mean to do that loud one. Finance Committee met on Monday. Again, I cannot reiterate strongly enough a couple of things. First, my sincere appreciation to the Ridgecrest Chamber of Commerce and the economic study report that they provided. If you have not seen it online, it's a very good read on what has really happened over the last, I could say all of COVID, but I really think it's about a 21-month cycle since July 4th, 2019 for our community. But the most important thing that we found is once again, sales tax and Measure V revenue for the community has been substantially stronger than we originally estimated when this council went through the budgeting process last June. And last June, by the way, happy anniversary plus 1 day for everyone. We were facing a completely different world in terms of what we did or didn't know was going to happen. Economically, through both the stimulus packages, but also more importantly through the incredible resiliency of this community and the fact that our primary employer remained largely employed through the entire process, we did not see a fall off in the sales tax or the Measure V tax revenues that we would have expected. Our property tax revenues have been in line, and most importantly, is the only area we have seen a radical hit is in our TOT. And that income, it's pretty reasonable to consider that your tax on hotel stays might be impacted by something like COVID. The fact is, though, that even after that impact, we're probably only looking at about a $300,000 or $400,000 in that bandwidth net annual decline in TOT revenue. But Measure V revenue right now, if you were to extrapolate an estimate, might be as much as $1 million over budget. Yeah. 800,000. Was 800,000 the number we came up with? I apologize. I like million. It sounds better, but I'll agree to 800,000. The key element here is that we are seeing better revenue than we had expected when this council sat here a year ago in the budget process, which is great news overall for the economics of the future of the city. The one issue that we continue to talk about is the staff salary issue and the results of the staff's survey schedule. We have tasked staff to go back and prepare some final items to be brought forward to the council, hopefully for this fiscal budget year, to try and address that I will say, not addressing it in the way we want to in a permanent way, but something that at least says something that we recognize the incredible efforts of our staff, especially as essential workers and as people that have been at the job the entire way through this thing. And I call it a little COVID thank you if we can work on something to that effect. We're working on it. And then finally, I tasked Sherry and she sent me some great information. Sherry, I'm going to figure out which one you want eventually. And then I'll keep doing it the wrong way, just so you know. Right, Solomon? Got it. The fact is that one of the things that came out of this most recent Stimulus 3 is we know for the first time historically that municipalities are going to get direct funding from the government. And that direct funding was put out there very loud and in charge exactly how much it is. And it's $5.35 million. We're still going to have to beg it from the state, which is scary. And we know the county is getting somewhere, I think it was $176 million. And the goal here is we don't know exactly how this thing's going to work yet. Nobody's making any promises, goals, anything. But all we did at Finance was ask that we start that discussion so we can get ourselves ahead of the public comment and ahead of the discussion in the best way possible, because this is a one-time opportunity for this community to do something. Depending on what the rules are, we can do it within. And that might be, I can tell you, I highlighted the line on the handout that was sent to me in the email this afternoon. Thank you. And there were 3 words there. And 2 of them sounded really good. One was water, and one was broadband. And that's nice to hear, because those are 2 key elements that we know, one that we're in the middle of working on wastewater, and the second one that we know is something that is absolutely something towards the future of this community. So I'm very excited to see that. We discussed that. I don't think I had anything else from finance. Did you?
Well, we are looking to have a budget workshop in May, so we'll keep you abreast of that. That'll be a council workshop like we've done in the past.
And I'm going to go back to one more finance thing that is probably about 2 months old, but I never properly offered the congratulations or thanks to Tricia and to Rika and to the team. I don't have the sheet in front of me, but I know they worked tirelessly to get our local medical offices and our local services to be available to city staff under one of our insurance plans, which is a substantial improvement or opportunity for our staff. And we did not properly thank them. I know you and me both, I think it was after the meeting when we were supposed to do that, but thank you very much. There are people working very hard to make sure that the staff is cared for, and I think that's one of the missions of this council as well over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that a little bit. I wish we had that list in front of us, because the number of doctors and providers that signed onto that list is huge.
Yeah.
It went from a handful to an entire sheet list long of providers that have signed on to that plan. So that affords local residents a much more amenable, option for their health care instead of traveling out of town. So it is a huge thing.
Okay, that's it. Infrastructure.
We are meeting next week, the 4th Thursday.
Okay. Economic development.
Yes, we discussed, it's going to be a recurring item until we find some solid traction. Social media changes and where the city wants to go with its social media campaign, for lack of a better term, direction, vision. We're working on it. The city staff is working very hard. I'm helping where I can, right? But a council person can only help so much. So it's an ongoing discussion, and if you guys would like, I can expand upon that, but I don't know how much you want to hear about it. I can talk about it for 45 minutes if you wanted.
Feel free.
It's your report.
You want to skip it? What is it, recommend? Okay. Okay. So it was just, we're trying to discuss the vision for the social media, because it's not as simple as just saying the city of Ridgecrest would like to use Facebook better. That's not the goal, right? The city of Ridgecrest would like to help improve its image. Because I think, and I said it the very first, when I was on the Planning Commission, Peggy, you remember when you were mayor, one of the very first questions you asked me, what do I think the Ridgecrest could improve upon? I said we could help our image, because I believe the city staff does a lot of great things. We have a great staff. We have a great public works. We have a great police department. We have, the city's doing a lot of good things, but the city of Ridgecrest doesn't always see it. So it's a lot of unthanked work that goes on behind the scenes. So it's been my goal since the first day. It still is my goal. I would love the people to see Ridgecrest in the light that I can see it now, being involved behind the scenes. And I hope that a better, improved social media campaign gets us there. And I think we'll get there. We have a plan. We're working on it. And we develop it. And the reason it's recurring is we're going to keep on discussing it to make sure we get it where it needs to be. There's a lot of nuts and bolts policies. There's staff changes and moves that need to be made. So working it, just so you guys know, we're working it. And we'll see where it goes. It's supposed to be nothing but positive, in my opinion. If it's nothing but a draw to the staff, then we find a different plan. It should never be something where it's just costing more people more work. The other thing that we discussed in the meeting was what is the purpose of the Economic Development Committee? What is our charter? And so we discussed that quite a bit. Ron, thanks for coming down and discussing with everybody in the room. In general, our purpose is to help develop the economy, right? But we're not doing that. The city can only do so much. And so there are there's things that we, city council, do, and some of the staff, going to ICSC, there are things we try to draw in, and it's also, assist the rest of the council and doing some heavy lifting, getting it up to the council. So, end report.
Thank you, Kyle. And I there's a reason why me and him look at each other when there's moments like that, and that's because we share a deep passion for changing the brand and communication for this community. And thank you, Kyle, for getting that committee leading that direction. Parks and Rec.
So
Quality of life.
Quality of life, parks, we did not meet yet, but I do have some news I'd like to update everybody on. The SPP grant application was officially submitted, and that's for the Penny Pool. So my congrats and thanks to Narissa and Jennifer and to everybody involved in all their hard work getting that grant together and submitted. So, and to everybody out in the public, the schools, and all the private citizens that came to the meetings, and other council members, and to everyone that's played a part in trying to promote this pool grant. And so we'll just wait and find out. I don't recall the exact date or length of time that it'll about 5 months. Thanks. So we'll update then. But anyway, congratulations, and thanks again for all of your hard work.
Yeah, I think it'll be about 110 degrees outside when we find out whether we'll get a pool or not. It'll be mid-August or something. But thank you again, also from the other side of the committee. This is not a small thing. This is a very big thing, and it could be a very, very big thing for the future of our community. And thank you to the entire team that got behind it. Also, I want to extend a thanks to the EDC for supporting Councilman Hansacker in getting us the plan designs. Thank you to the Ridgecrest Lions, who have quietly always been championing this project, and then thank you to the community that is sending a message as far as what they really want to see as far as a return for a quality of life. So, RACVB, I don't see Melissa, so anybody got a RACVB chime in?
Nothing new since their presentation at the last city council meeting.
I will tell you that presentation was a fantastic presentation, and I've heard more comments about that than I had for many others. And
so I have maybe I'll save it for comments.
Okay. Other committees, boards, or commissions? We'll go from this side down. You don't get to go last this time.
That's too bad. Okay, KernCog tomorrow. So I'll let you guys know next council meeting what comes out of that. I think that's it.
Quad States, sorry, not Quad Cities, but Quad States. I don't know if everyone will understand the humor in the idea that I think I've read more about desert turtles and Joshua trees in the last month than I had in all of my years combined, plus 3 other people's lifespans. It's very interesting, but I commend their continued work against trying to make sure that there's been an effort to make the Joshua tree an endangered species. I would let you just go ahead and try and imagine what that could do to land development in the desert, even for us. And they have worked very effectively to try and combat that, and I commend them. Got a lot to learn there, but turtles and trees. I wasn't able to join the East Kern, but I know you'll have something on that. So,
yeah, Mayor Bruin. One thing.
This guy like Eric.
One thing that was huge with that, if the Joshua tree is considered endangered, I remember reading in the report that it's novel because it's the reason it's considered endangered because of climate change, and if that will be the first of its kind considered in America, and that it would open the door for other such endangers.
The government released its response to the climate change argument just over the weekend.
Oh, okay.
And it's safe to say they took a very strong opposition opinion. especially calling out that argument as not merited.
Understood. Good.
Yeah, so
okay, I didn't know that.
they are definitely making work on that front.
Comments?
I have to apologize to everyone. I was in the middle of the East Kern EDC meeting and East Kern Economic Alliance meeting, and I had an accident in my parking lot, and I had to leave it, and Melissa gave the report for us, and I thought she would be here today to report. So I will make sure we have it at the next meeting. My apology to all.
Okay. City Manager.
Yes, sir. I'd just like to remind everybody that this is Mr. Lauer's last meeting with us. His last day is April 1st. We are going to miss him greatly. During the time that Bard has been here, he's been an excellent public works director. He's been very attentive and supportive of his staff, very supportive of myself and council. He helped bring the slurry machine in practicality to the city, as well as assisting me in negotiating the wastewater easement and service contract with the Navy. So he's done some very important stuff over the last 3 years. He'll be greatly missed. And so, Bard, just want to wish you well, and hopefully we'll be able to see you at your wedding there in April if COVID allows. Anyway, that's my report.
Thank you, Bard. Enjoy retirement. Future agenda items. I believe we came to a pretty agreed upon resolution as far as the GA. Okay. Is there any other agenda items? I'll start on this side.
No.
None. My only one is the same one that I've asked Cherie, and I've said at Parks and Recs, and I've said here at the city manager is, let's start the discussion about what these funds are going to mean to this community. Let's keep that discussion going. If there's ideas, if there's some things to have, let's not just bury them into one committee or one area. Have an open discussion, even if it's a discussion item every third meeting that says what's happening and what's coming. I think that this is a unique opportunity, and I think it's best to get the full public comment, full public involvement in that process as much as we can.
I do believe it's going to take probably at least 30 to 60 days before a lot of the things that this funding can be used for will be fleshed out. When we had the CARES Act, it was at least 90 days or longer before we were able to even somewhat understand exactly what we could use that funding for. So although there's some highlight topics there, the devil's in the details, like it was in the CARES Act.
Yeah, and one of my big reasons for bringing it out publicly, even as early as now, is with the county getting $176 million, it's going to be very, very easy for the county supervisors to allocate substantial funds to West Kern. And they have an opportunity potentially to make a substantial investment in East Kern. And I want to make sure that we are chiming that drum as early as possible, especially when the term broadband is in there. Because if the county supervisors are committed to an Eastern Kern economic development, as they have stated they have, especially with the diminishment of oil and gas and the diminishment of agriculture, we understand we have military and aerospace out here. Well, I can tell you what's something that military and aerospace want is better broadband access, and it might be a fantastic opportunity to get the county to really potentially take that type of action. And I just want to make sure that we're advocating in that public sense early and often if we can.
Got it.
I don't think I had any other no other future agenda items.
We've discussed before having a workshop as a council, and tonight we brought up multiple things that we could throw into that workshop. One of those is zoning. We could talk general plan. We could talk where we see communications, broadband, and then how that fits into the general plan. I think we've all recognized that there needs to be changes made there. We could also, I guess, tag on to that funding and some of these other things. Now, I don't know if this council really wants to keep, I bring it up because I'm for it, but doesn't mean you guys are for adding on additional meetings into the month. But it's still a hope of mine that we get there at some point. And if not, that's okay.
Can I add something here? I think it's very important that we have one of those, and the fact that we can talk individually without making major decisions in a workshop is the opportunity for us to hear from each other, because we can't certainly go talk to all 5 when we're outside. This is a golden opportunity, and if we don't take it, shame on us. I agree. Let's get started on that as soon as possible.
Agreed. That is, that's a failure on my behalf of not pushing the calendar date out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Call me Breeden, I can own one. I screw up.
There,
2 days is a bad day.
When you start wearing a wig, then you can call yourself Breeden, okay?
There are photos. They were
I
used.
know, I got you.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ron.
no, there are a couple of significant issues that are coming to council. One may be closed session to begin with. So there are some things that are coming your way that have some meaning. So, but I do agree we could have a planning meeting for the council. We discussed it. It's just there's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that the staff's been working on that may or may not be introduced to the council in public initially or not. I don't know.
Regardless, Councilman Blades has asked this, and I think it is a perfectly reasonable.
As long as the rest of the council thinks it's beneficial. If people do not think it's beneficial, I don't want to waste people's time. I just know that, kind of like Ms. Breeden was saying, there's a slew of things we don't get to discuss. I know that whatever the perception of the public is, I'm telling you it's the truth. We constantly have to not speak about things that are seemingly routine. And it would be nice to be like, oh, so you would like to see 5G and fiber? Oh, you'd like to see, oh, you would too? That's great. But we don't get to have those discussions. We get to talk about nothing.
So I guess the next thing is that maybe we have Rika send out a date selection for the council to find out when you guys all may be available for something to that degree.
You guys prefer it on I mean, I know work nights are always challenging. They're not as problematic for me, but, or a weekend time, which, is there a general purpose position from you guys, whether it be an after work, almost like, just an extra week in there where we take, and we go from 6 to 9 or something like that? Or is there more like something you want a Saturday where we go, noon to 4 or something?
I think after hours is good as long as it works with the staff, because I know that they have other meetings they have to contend with and support. They have a whole calendar to support, so as long as it works for them, I'm open after hours, anytime.
I like the after-hour meeting time. I think we're not doing it all the time, so it's just a, kind of an occasional,
I personally think even something like that's even twice a year, that we just have 7 topics that we're discussing, is not a terrible idea, because those 7 topics are all things that are going on in the community. And it can simply be essentially, Rick, if I understand it's just a special meeting with discussion topics, correct? Right.
Staff would recommend that we be in a less formal situation than in the council chambers, like in a meeting room over the Kerr-McGee Center, where you have staff sitting across from the council, so it's a little more relaxed.
That's the way it's been in the past.
Okay,
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's fine with them. We can see the new carpeting.
All right, then I'll have Rika send out a series of dates, and we'll see if we can come up with one.
So is a weekend time part of the discussion too?
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking which is the preferred.
It's easier for some of us. So.
Well, no, that's why I want you to chime up. If my preference is weekend. My preference is weekday.
Weekend.
My preference is weekend.
I'm wondering if the staff is going to be excited about the weekend.
Yeah, I know you all want to work an extra day. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll owe you beer.
Here's the cool thing. We can kind of tell them.
You could.
It
I'm
won't
sorry,
work
what
out
did
well.
I call you earlier?
No, I'm just playing. Why don't we select both a weekend date and a weekday date that is in best view for staff, and then get them out as a calendar. And Kyle, you're 100% correct. We made a commitment to get that done, especially just to see where each of us stand on certain things, because I'm going to simply say that the Freedom of Information Act is a very interesting process, and after 4 of them, I can tell you that I walk a very tight line with the Brown Act. So,
One of the things, are we going to, when we're doing this, are we going to talk like this item, this item, and this item, or are we going to open it to everything? Because if we don't give staff some general idea of what we'd like to talk about, how do they prepare?
In the past, we've just put council workshop, and y'all can discuss whatever you'd like.
Okay, so we know that we may ask questions that staff will not be able to answer, and that will give them an opportunity to do that. Okay. Thank
Correct,
you.
and there's some things I would believe that staff would like to talk to council about.
Good.
so let's make that our commitment. This is the last meeting of March. That will happen in April. We'll get it done. Okay? And getting it done in April is the best time, because we're going to have workshops by the end of May and into June for budget that we're going to have some special meetings for. And that gives the staff a month's time to also align the budget with some of those things that come out of that conversation. So let's make a commitment to get that done in April. Thank you. Any other mayor or council comments? I don't have any. None?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Just to, I'd like to thank Bard for his years of hard work to the city. So thank you, sir. Wish you well on your retirement and enjoy it. Second one, I just wanted to, it kind of touches back with the RA CBB and the when they did their presentation. I think it was the last meeting. Marketing us, and you guys talked a little bit about it earlier about, how do we market ourselves to outside, individuals in the, in the state or other states. But I had a individual I ran into here very recently, a couple days ago, and she's just recently moved to Ridgecrest. Her and her husband, I would say, middle-aged, maybe 40, moderate to above average income. And so my comment was, well, did work bring you to town? Because that's usually what brings people to Ridgecrest. And she said, no, we lived in Los Angeles all of our lives, and we decided that we'd had enough. And so they've been up here and through this area a couple times, and we're actually looking for a town that had the right demographics for what they were looking for, and we were it. And I found that pretty interesting, because after the discussion that we just had last week. And so I think it's important that we do market ourselves, because this COVID outcome is going to, I think, play a pretty permanent change in people's mindsets and where they want to live and where they want to go. And I asked her about, well, do you feel like we don't have enough amenities? And she's like, no, we had all that. We don't miss that. And I said, well, we have a Walmart and Starbucks and, the basics. And but I just thought it was pretty interesting that they found Richards. Now, they do like to mountain bike. I found that out too. And I think the outdoor adventure title was, brought up. And so anyway, I think we're on the right track with this. And I think the more we can market ourselves and get our name out into the, other parts of the state, it's good. So.
May I add something here then? When we look at what Justin O'Neill tried to do a few years ago, this is exactly, he was ahead of us on this. And I think we need to go back and look at some of those options that were developed by both the community and Justin to bring to all of us. And so if any of us have, Rika, could you send out, do you have any of that information available?
I'm sure I could find some.
Could you send it to us so we would be aware of what was discussed at that time, because some of it may still be pertinent, and certainly the opportunity that he took to help develop that will allow us to look at it and go from there.
I do have something. So over the weekend was opening for baseball, and it was impressive to see the community and this come out and the support for, youth sports at the baseball fields. It was awesome to see everybody cheering, and it was a good time. It was good to be there. It was good to watch the community open up like that. So thank you, Parks and Rec, making that happen, Marissa.
I would say that it has been a long road through 1 year plus 1 day.
Yeah, it has been. And they've overcome, and they presented, Marissa, I think you were there. They presented ways to adhere to guidelines and yet still get out and play. And they're still doing it. There's a lot of resilience there, a lot of motivation. And it's good. It's good for everybody all around. Good for the kids. Good for parents, I'm sure, and good for the city as well. So it was just nice to see, and I thought
and it's cool to see that we're if those we didn't. I don't think anybody mentioned it, but we know now that we hit the metrics for red tier for this week. We have to have 2 consecutive weeks in order to move out. So right now, if we hold the metrics or there's no change in the metrics to the negative or to the positive test rate, then we should be moving into red next Wednesday. No, it's March 24th.
You have to hold it.
Yeah, because we've already achieved it. We have to hold it. It's a 2-week period. You have to have the metric in place for an entire 2-week period, and that's based on what they've released. That was the 24th of March. We would be in the position to move to red tier, and red tier means that we get our cinemas back, we get some indoor dining back, we get some other things, and I know that. I, for one, would be very excited to get back into a movie theater, and I know for many of us, we'd all be very happy to get back into a restaurant and sit down. So we're close. We're close. With no other items, what time was I supposed to hit, Rika?
8:30.
8:30.
Okay, yeah.
I'm at 8:12. My apologies. Thank you, Siri. This meeting is adjourned.
Marissa?
It could have been done at 7, but.